Viral news bloopers and reporting fails come in many forms. There's getting the names wrong.
Something Wong, we too low.
The embarrassing expletive slip
that led to Chris Wood's death. The fuck is that?
Today I'll be presenting you all with a wavy web surf special report as we take a look back at some of the greatest viral news blunders to ever hit the internet, explaining the truly bizarre circumstances that led up to them and the often serious consequences for the reporter involved in their creation. Let's begin. News tricked into reporting racist pilot names. It's difficult to truly put into words how insane of a screw-up our first story is.
Something Wong, we too low, Ho Li Fook, and Bang Ding Ao.
Most of you have seen this clip and are probably still as baffled as the day you first saw it. Its infamy is very well established, but the question is, how exactly does something like this even happen? A lot of people seem to think the Something Wong news clip can be boiled down to it coming from a 4chan style prank originating from the internet that fooled the news media. But no, that's not how this happened. The reality of the situation is far more nuanced. It's like a perfect storm of bad reporting and government employees screwing up. On July 6, 2013, Asiana Airlines Flight 214 is scheduled to take off from Seoul, South Korea. Its destination, San Francisco, California. This 10-hour flight over the Pacific is helmed by South Korean pilots Lee Gang-guk and Lee Jeong-min. Important to note, the latter of these men was Lee Gang-guk's training instructor, and Guk only had about 40 hours of experience flying this type of aircraft, a Boeing 777 with 307 people on board. The trip over the water goes well, but let's just say the landing left something to be desired. On July 6th at around 11:30 Pacific time, Asiana Flight 214 attempted the landing at San Francisco International Airport, but a combination of low approach speed and pilots mismanaging the autothrottle resulted in the plane falling short of the runway and crashing. The aircraft was flying too low and its tail clipped on the seawall that you're seeing here in the B-roll video. The plane's tail flies off and the fuselage, filled with passengers, slides across the runway in chaotic fashion. This is actual footage of the plane crashing into that seawall. It's a bit difficult to make out, but yeah. Now, thankfully, almost all of the passengers and crew survived this crash, but there were a lot of people hurt and we did have a few fatalities. Aside from the over 200 people injured, 2 Chinese high school students were killed during the crash, and another student was disturbingly killed outside of the crashed plane after being run over by a responding fire truck that failed to notice their body on the ground.
The video shows a firefighter directing a fire truck around the girl. About 15 minutes later, the same truck can be seen maneuvering across where the 16-year-old girl was laying on the ground.
Needless to say, this was a pretty tragic situation and would make world news. It's always a big deal when there's a commercial airline crash, and considering the bizarre details surrounding this one, such as the student getting run over by the fire truck, well, let's just say outlets were doing everything they could to get the scoop on the smallest details related to the Asiana wreck. Which brings us to Fox affiliate KTVU. On the afternoon of July 12th, KTVU's lead anchor delivers an update regarding the Asiana Flight 214 incident from days earlier. Apparently, their news station producer had gotten in contact with someone at the National Transportation and Safety Board and acquired some information they thought was previously unknown to the public. That information being the names of the pilots behind this deadly crash. Take it away, Tori.
We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Something Wong, We Too Low, Ho Li Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. The NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed.
While this was something of an accurate description of the actual plane crash, these were most certainly not the names of the pilots. KTVU had just fucked up. Somebody jerked these guys off in a big way. In the minutes following the report, the station started getting calls and emails from baffled viewers explaining to the journalists that they had fallen for an obvious racist hoax or something. One of the station's producers, realizing the blunder, tweets out, "Oh shit." Yeah, you ain't lying, buddy. I mean, you have to ask yourselves, how the fuck did Lori or any of her fellow anchors or dozens of staff members not catch this preposterous report in the editing room? How did a graphic designer make this slide and not once ask themselves, are we sure something wrong we too low is legit? An apology by the station was issued after the next commercial break.
Names of pilots involved in the Asiana Airlines crash. These names were not accurate despite an NTSB official in Washington confirming them late this morning. We apologize for this error.
How the fuck did this happen? Well, I can't wait to tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, this story is an example of authority bias working its magic, people not checking their sources, and journalists in general getting tunnel vision when trying to get a scoop on a story. Allow me to put you into the minds of the KTVU producers at the time just before this reporting mistake was made. KTVU had been reporting on the Asiana airline crash since the day it occurred. Quite effectively and thoroughly, if I'm being honest with you. They were proud of their coverage on this topic and weren't ashamed to admit it. A promo cut for the station aired just a day prior to their Captain Something Wong blunder and said, quote, "Being first on air and on every platform in all aspects of our coverage was a great accomplishment, but being 100% accurate, effectively using our great sources and social media without putting a single piece of erroneous information on air is what we are most proud of as a newsroom." You can see how a bit of hubris was at play here, and this would ultimately bite them in the ass. So KTVU's motivation is clear. They want to be the first to every detail regarding this story, and that's what brings us to an email and phone call that would change the course of news fail history as we know it. So several hours before their massive screw-up, KTVU's producers had reportedly received an email from an individual in the aviation industry who had apparently given the station reliable tips and info in the past. And this email purportedly contained the names of the Something Wong crew in it. Was it a joke? A genuine false report? That we don't know. But someone previously trusted by producers sent them these names in an email. Now, what we do know for certain, though, is that the producers at KTVU then call up the NTSB headquarters in Washington, D.C., looking for some confirmation on these pilot names that they had been given. The NTSB is the government body responsible for investigating plane crashes, among other things. So the producers are connected to an NTSB employee, and they ask for help in confirming the list of names that they had been given in that email. The names are spelled out to the government worker, who then takes a moment and confirms to KTVU, yes, those are the names of the Asiana Flight 214 pilots. Without ascertaining the identity or rank of this employee, the producer thanks him, hangs up the phone, and begins working on their new scoop of this reporting. Which, by the way, wasn't even a scoop because the Associated Press actually reported the real names of the pilot 2 days earlier. But I guess these guys missed that. Now, what KTVU failed to realize was, not only was their source bad, but the NTSB employee they had just spoken to was actually a low-level summer intern who had no authority to confirm or deny anything related to an ongoing crash investigation. In all reality, it was just some idiot temp worker who probably panicked on the phone and agreed with the incorrect names that the reporter ran by them. Or they heard the names and were like, yo, I'm willing to sacrifice my job for these to make it on air. Regardless, the producers trusted their source, and the NTSB and the KTVU news team trusted their producers, and the rest is history.
Something Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Li Fook, and Bang Ding Ao.
When KTVU had finally put together the pieces of what happened, they would issue an additional follow-up apology and explanation later that evening, fully admitting that they had screwed the pooch while also dragging the NTSB intern a bit too.
Tonight we want to take a moment and say that we are sorry. Earlier today, during our noon newscast, we misidentified the pilots in the Asiana Airlines crash. We made several mistakes when we received this information. First of all, we never read the names out loud, phonetically sounding them out. Then, during our phone call to the NTSB, where the person confirmed the spellings of the names, we never asked that person to give us their position within the agency. We heard this person verify the information without questioning who they were and then we rushed the names onto our noon newscast.
An apology is good and all, but you really have to understand the scale of this mistake. It was a fresh tragedy, the racial insensitivity of all of it, the grieving families involved. KTVU had hell to pay for this. Firstly, several employees of the station were fired in the wake of this, including 3 veteran producers, who I can only imagine were involved in the taking of the false information from the NTSB intern and allowing it to make it on air. You might find it interesting that Tori Campbell wasn't fired, despite her in a way being the face of this blunder. Because, you know, she's the one who said it and everything. Though given that she was simply reading out what she assumed to be vetted information from a teleprompter, I'd imagine a bit of grace was shown to her. On top of the internal firings, KTVU was facing potential external threats, as the station actually was sued by Asiana Airlines for defamation shortly after their mishap was publicized. But that suit was later dropped, and it's probably because Asiana had other issues to deal with. I mean, this whole situation doesn't even exist if their plane didn't crash in the first place. They'd end up paying what was likely millions of dollars in undisclosed settlements to the survivors of their crash. Aside from lawsuits and firing, though, the true embarrassment was simply the existence of the clip itself. KTVU saw it as an existential threat to their integrity as a media outlet. In the time following the report, clips of it became quite popular online, and KTVU made efforts to DMCA take down the clip. As you might imagine, this kind of made a Streisand effect, where rippers would spam and upload different versions of the clip online, knowing that KTVU was embarrassed of it and trying to hide it. And as a result of their actions here, it would go on to become one of the most popular news fail videos of all time. A symphony of judgment errors, miscommunication, and racist jokes. That is the story of the Asiana Flight 214 pilot name disaster. And now we have a bit of breaking news here. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to inform you, but right now your full name, email, phone number, home address, and date of birth are likely floating around on the internet, and you have opportunistic data brokers to thank for that. But don't fret, as today's sponsor Unhinged can help identify your personal data and get it removed from the web for good. These data brokers play fast and loose with your information, and you're going to want to take it back from them before your passwords or personal info end up in a breach. The brokers have to remove it if you make a request. Unhinged does what would be virtually impossible for you to do on your own, tracking down the data brokers who have your info online and submitting information removal requests on your behalf. This would take days if you tried to do it by yourself, and I don't think you'd have much success. When signing up for Unhinged, this newsman was shocked to find how many brokers had been peddling my data. Unhinged indicated 245 instances of my personally identifying information on the web, and they sent requests to take down each occurrence, constantly performing new checks and sending new requests on your behalf. Take back your personal data with Unhinged. Use code WavyWebSurf at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. That's Unhinged.com/WavyWebSurf. Our next story? You might find it interesting that some of, if not the most infamous viral news clips, aren't actually genuine bloopers. Ladies and gentlemen, we now arrive at one of the most consequential YouTube hoaxes of all time. The legend of her right in the pussy.
The 3 victims were part of a CXS
right in the pussy.
Throughout 2014, reporters around the United States were menaced by a black hoodie-wearing man with an uncanny knack for being just at the right place at the right time to deploy a rather vulgar catchphrase on them.
This gentleman here has purchased his costume. What are you going to be this year, sir?
I really don't know what this is, but I've got something a whole lot scarier.
Let's see it.
Sure thing. Right in the pussy.
The internet was in awe of this mysterious man who bombed the media with his intrusive antics time and time again.
Can you tell us a little more of what you saw?
I sure can. I was sitting on my front porch, grabbed a beer, and right in the pussy.
The enigmatic FHRITP guy became a legend, and his catchphrase was adopted by troublemakers around the states, who would risk it all to yell it out live on TV. FHRITP mania was in full swing.
Very well, not only through the marathon, but sorry about that, folks.
That's in Jamaica plane. That's an event for peace.
You know what I mean?
People have actually gotten in a lot of trouble for screaming the infamous expletive over the years. People getting kicked out of sports venues for saying it, some getting arrested for disorderly conduct because of it. In 2014 and 2015, the phrase was impossible to escape. It was literally everywhere. And you have the black hoodied man to thank for it. But what's funny is he never actually did bomb a real journalist with this phrase. As mentioned earlier, the original FHRITP videos are all hoaxes. Hoaxes created by this man, John Kane, known on YouTube as Kane to Bomb. John is an interesting guy. If you take a look at his channel, it becomes clear that he had been attempting to go viral with news blooper hoaxes long before the FHRITP skits. He's been creating mock bloopers online as far back as 2008.
I want you to tell people what was going on in your body, in your mind, in your head as we look at this video. What was happening to you?
I was hallucinating that I was in a Walmart parking lot and I was arguing with this old lady about a shopping cart and whose shopping cart it was. In reality, I was rolling around on my kitchen floor humping my garbage can.
John had little success for years, but finally struck gold after linking up with an individual known only as Fred Ferguson, which I'm pretty sure that's not the guy's real name, but that's the FHRITP guy that you know of, the one with the black hoodie.
How does it feel for you to be an established internet artist, Fred?
I don't consider myself an artist. I just consider myself somebody who goes out there and says right in the pussy. If they can't handle it, then, you know, that's the problem. I didn't know that was being an artist. I thought that was just me saying how I felt.
John explains how he met Fred.
Some people said, how did you meet Fred? I used to own a high-speed internet company where I provided high-speed internet service throughout my entire county. It failed miserably, but he was one of my customers. So I kind of knew who he was anyway, and we were already Facebook friends.
A piece of trivia for you. Many of the original FHRITP videos were filmed in the Florence, Kentucky area. I actually went out of my way to do something I'm pretty sure nobody has ever cared to do, and found 2 of the actual locations where the videos were filmed at. Make that 3 of them, as my editor just made a huge discovery. The Halloween mask one was filmed right outside of this Dick's and Christmas tree outlet store on Hansel Avenue in Florence. In the FHRITP video where the reporter is talking about pipes bursting, well, that one was filmed at this intersection of La Cresta Drive and US Highway 42 in Florence. The most difficult to find was the original FHRITP location, but my editor Jack locked the fuck in and figured it out. It's this train crossing near North Main Street and Railroad Street in Glencoe, Kentucky. Truly a meme holy site. Check out Jack's channel in the description. He deserves a sub or 2 for this pull. Anyways, with the help of Fred as the FHRITP guy, John operated a social media business for a while, making money off not only the videos, but they got cash for paid meet and greet appearances as well, with Fred being featured. You know, people would want to take photos with the legend himself. They even toured around at festivals and concerts. It was a big deal. I'm getting super nostalgic like looking at these photos. You guys remember the era of FHRITP? This dude had movement, the aura. Speaking of which, this individual has remained quite mysterious over the years. He's done very few interviews and seems to have disappeared from the public light in recent times. I'm not all too sure that Fred Ferguson is his real name, and I can't help but wonder what he's been up to. I have a feeling somebody out there watching this probably knows. You can shoot me a DM if you want to tattle. In closing though, I just want to say it's pretty impressive the mileage that this hoax video created by John and his crew had. You know, making a national trend that had journalists watching their back for many years. Hell, the phrase is still somewhat popular today. And just when you think it's dead, another clip of someone yelling out right in the pussy will appear on the news or be posted to Twitter, resurrecting the meme from near extinction time and time again in an endless cycle of f***ing and pussies.
Fucker right in the...
The bug-in-mouth reporter rabbit hole. Okay, for our next chapter, we're gonna get a little bit old school. Back in the early days of YouTube, news bloopers were one of the site's main attractions, and I struggle to think of a more iconic news blooper style clip than the bug-in-mouth reporter.
What really happened on that Thursday here at Augusta High School that led to Chris Wood's death? The fuck is that? Shit!
I'm dying in this fucking country-ass fucked up town. Shit flying in my mouth. The fuck, I can't see, pollen. Let's get the fuck out of this country, motherfucker.
It's a rather infamous video and has been parodied and celebrated time and time again. But what most of you don't realize is that there does exist something of a bug-and-mouth reporter rabbit hole or insect hole. An anthill, if you will. Despite what you might initially think, this was in fact not a live broadcasted news fail. It was actually a leaked recording uploaded to the internet a decade after it was filmed, and when discovered, the reporter in this clip thought his life was ruined. Recent arrests show that he has other things to worry about as well, aside from this clip. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Who is the bug-and-mouth reporter, and what is the origin of the video? This is Isaiah Carey, 24 years old at the time, and a reporter for KARK4 Channel 4 News in Little Rock, Arkansas. Isaiah had worked many jobs in the industry before this, and by all accounts was a complete professional with a bright future ahead of him in media. What could possibly go wrong? In the summer of 1996, Isaiah was dispatched on assignment to the town of Augusta. His job was to create a special report regarding the recent death of an adult school chaperone named Chris Woods, who died at a football game at Augusta High School, allegedly after Chris had tried breaking up a fight and was killed. Now, during this report, which I must emphasize wasn't live, Isaiah Carey would record several stand-up shots to use in the final edit of the special report. A stand-up is like a pre-recorded segment that news stations often splice into their editorial pieces to make them more engaging from a storytelling perspective, or they could just use it to add, give promo to the story that's coming on later in the evening. It was rather hot out on this day. The summer heat bore down on Isaiah in his uncomfortable suit. Seems like his crew was having some issues getting the perfect take. And just as Isaiah was finally about to nail it and be done with all of this, a grasshopper attacked, sending Isaiah over the edge, and the rest is history.
What really happened on that Thursday here at Augusta High School that led to Chris Wood's death?
The fuck is that? Shit!
As I've previously made clear, this was not broadcasted live, so no harm, no foul, right? It was just an outtake that no one would see. The crew laughed about the situation for a bit, eventually got all of their video shots that they needed, and left. Everything was on VHS cassettes at the time, and the botched recording was stowed away in KARK's archives, with nobody ever expecting it to be viewed again. So life goes on and Isaiah's professional career blossoms. Isaiah advanced rapidly in his career as a reporter, taking a more significant role at Fox News Houston in 2001. He'd stayed there for years, even securing his own late-night news segment called The Isaiah Factor. The man would win multiple awards for his reporting and became one of the most well-known local journalists in the entirety of the Mid-South. He was a trusted figure with a wholesome and professional image. But a certain video uploaded to the internet in 2008 had Isaiah thinking everything was about to come crumbling down. Somebody had uploaded his bug-and-mouth blooper to YouTube, and it was going viral. Massively viral. Isaiah was mortified. How did this happen? How did his 15-year-old outtake lost in the KARK VHS vault make it online? And now we move to one of the more fascinating parts of this story. So in 1997, KARK4, Isaiah's old station, well, they had moved locations. And at some point during the transition, a few boxes of old archival VHS tapes were left out front of the station office. One morning, a local musician named Donovan Suet just so happened to walk by and found the VHS tapes. Presuming they were being offered away as junk, the guy decided to collect some of them for himself and check out what was on the tapes. After getting home, the guy pops them in and watches away. The man quickly discovered that the tapes were a collection of KARK4 bloopers, many of which featured a much younger Isaiah Carey from back in 1996. In the collection was the now iconic bug flying into his mouth clip, but there were many other funny moments from Isaiah as well, which I'm sure very few of you have actually seen.
I'm Isaiah Carey. I'll have that story just ahead. I could kick your ass. We attempted to reach the mayor several times, but our calls and our visits to her house, it wasn't there.
I don't know who the fuck she was. I forgot my lie.
We're asking people if they, she's having a bad hair day anyway. How could they let her out of the house like that?
No! Don't want to talk. Don't want to talk. I don't want to talk.
Come on,
I'm from New Jersey. I don't want to talk.
I cut you against the corner here.
I don't want to talk.
Brought to you by your local train dealer.
I ain't got no prompter. I don't have a prompter.
For years, Donovan Suet held on to these tapes, showing the tapes only to close friends. It was like something he would pop on when he had his buddies over just as a party favor. But they wouldn't remain in his personal video stash forever, as when YouTube came around, a temptation struck Mr. Suet. Over a decade after being initially recorded, in April of 2008, Donovan uploaded some of the Isaiah Carey bloopers, publishing them to his YouTube channel, which was called Bizarre Media. The Bug and Mouth clip went viral and became an early YouTube meme. Isaiah was made aware of the clips being online secondhand, after a friend had told him that he was going viral. And when he found out about it, you could imagine his shock.
I get a call from on-air personality here in Houston on the radio, Nate.
Oh, okay.
And she says, Isaiah, I think you need to know there's a video out there of you. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like you're cursing, saying bad words, you're going off. I'm like, well, ain't me.
Yeah.
I know it ain't me.
You had no clue.
Yeah, just 15 years ago.
Okay. Absolutely.
You know, when it happened.
Right.
And she said, I'm going to send you a link.
Okay.
And I looked at the link. I'm like, oh, my God. How did that get out?
Did you remember that day? Like, yo, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was horrified, you know, because I don't want people to see me in that light.
Isaiah is very much an old school guy, and the concept of going viral was new at this time. So you can understand his apprehension of a video clip with him cursing being passed around. He thought it could tarnish his professional image or cause him to lose his job potentially. But that's not what happened. According to Isaiah, when the general manager of the station that he worked at saw the video, the manager busted out laughing. Everyone else was being cool about the clip and it was beloved online, but Isaiah remained extremely sensitive about it for a good while. He had worked so hard to become a respected journalist, and a part of him felt this whole experience was humiliating. He couldn't shake the feeling that people were making a mockery out of him. And while many urged him to embrace the clip, Isaiah stubbornly refused. The guy wouldn't talk about it publicly for years, even going as far as telling those at Fox that he never wanted it mentioned publicly, period. But as time passed and the sting from the initial shock faded, Isaiah would come to realize that it didn't make much sense to hide from something so beloved to many.
And so I went out and did the story. The news director called me, chewed me out.
Was it a bad story?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. He's chewed me out. He said, but I like what you did.
So he embraced the meme, continued to work as a news reporter, and even had another run-in with angry insects.
First up on The Factor, IsaiahFactor.com, there is outrage at the Waller County Jail, this time for a man named Quincy Davis. He's been behind bars for 780 days. He's charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer. Get it!
A rather interesting and somewhat unsettling twist to this story is that Isaiah's public reputation has been threatened in recent years, but it has nothing to do with bugs or him cursing in news recordings. In October of 2018, the man was pulled over and arrested for a DWI. At the time, it was seemingly a one-off issue and his career didn't suffer. Recently though, on February 7th, 2025, Carey was arrested yet again for DWI, this time in Montgomery County, Texas. 3 days after this arrest, he'd announced that he was taking a break from reporting, writing, quote, "For years I have dedicated my life to this work, to telling stories that matter, standing up for what's right, and fighting for my community. It's a responsibility that I've never taken lightly and will continue to show up. That has never and will never change. But in that fight, I lost sight of something just as important, myself. I put my own well-being last, convinced that if I just kept pushing forward, everything would be fine. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. Strength isn't just about showing up for others, it's about showing up for yourself, and it's time to do that. I'm also making the choice to prioritize my health, my well-being, and my future. Because the best version of me, the one my family, my friends, and my community deserve, is one that is whole. I ask for your continued support, your understanding, and your prayers. This is not a setback, this is a turning point. And I promise you this, I will come out of this stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. With gratitude, Isaiah. As of recently, the man has returned and is back on Fox 26 for the Isaiah Factor Uncensored show that he headlines. Hopefully the guy can stop consuming substances and driving, and the only issues he has going forward is more bugs flying in his mouth. And well, that concludes tonight's Wavy Web Surf Special Report. Let me know what you guys thought about this one down below in the comments section, and let me know who or what you want me to talk about next. I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.